Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel Curiosity Rocks, and this is a BookTube video, a review of On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher. So first of all, let's review the cover, and the cover is really pretty. I especially like all the foiling, and it shows the symbols of things that are in the story. And then on the back there's a heart, and then it's got more foiling, and then in the heart section it says, he noticed she had a twinkle. It was right there in her eyes. Maybe it was a slight scrunch of her nose when she smiled at him, which made the corner of her eyes crease that caused it. Or maybe it was the way her eyebrows framed her face. But no matter what it was, when he saw that twinkle, all he heard in his head was his heart laughing. So let's read. Then you've got the design coming into the this part of the book. I've forgotten all the words. So let's read what it says on this in the sleeve of the book. So first it says, your soul is too heavy to pass through this door. Leave the weight of the world and the world from before. Evie Snow is 82 when she quietly passes away in her sleep, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. It's the way most people wish to leave the world, but when Evie reaches the door of her own private heaven, she finds that she's become her 27-year-old self, and the door won't open. Evie's soul must be light enough to pass through, so she needs to get rid of whatever is making her soul heavy. For Evie, this means unburdening herself of the 3 secrets which have weighed her down for over 50 years, so she must find a way to reveal them before it's too late. As Evie begins the journey of a lifetime, she learns more about life and love than she ever thought possible, and somehow, some way, she may also find her way back to the only man she ever truly loved. Powerful, magical and utterly romantic, On the Other Side will transport you to a world that is impossible to forget. This is a love story like no other, which will have you weeping because of the sheer joy and beauty of it all. So this review is probably going to be slightly spoilery, but a quick mini review before I go into the spoilers is, I'm not very good at book reviews, but I'm trying my best, because all the words go through my head and it's all perfect in my head, and then when I come to film my book reviews, all my words jumble up. But it is a good book, and it's not, if you're into supernatural stuff then you'll enjoy it, but if you're into stuff that's like, oh, it's got to be real, and if it's not real then I don't like it, then you might not enjoy it, because it's not I thought she was writing sort of a straight sort of romance with like lots of like romantic people in, but it's not what I thought it was going to be. It's different. There's a very large supernatural element, and you will have to leave your logic at the door if you want to dive into this book. So because I wouldn't call it magic realism, I would call it surreal romance, because, well, the first thing that you have to, there's hair in it, the first thing that you have to accept in the book is, well, there's a pass for the dreams in the afterlife bit, because we humans don't fully understand that, so yeah. But then there's two, the secrets are based around symbols, I think, but they're classed in the story as actual happenings, and it seems like the characters aren't freaked out too much, so that's why I wouldn't say it's magic realism, because the characters find these 3 secrets perfectly normal, and the 3 secrets are odd. So the first thing is that you're going to have to accept is that somebody can actually write on a bird. So there's this bird called Little One, and he flies through Teen Vincent, and Evie, because first of all, it's like it's a bit Disney evil queen, because Evie comes from this family and who are really strict and really boring and really normal, and the mother, called Eleanor, is sort of like your Disney evil queen and says, you do what I say and stuff, and she wants her to settle down and just have kids and just be normal and boring. But Evie doesn't want that. Evie wants to be an animator and an artist, so her mother gives her 1 year to prove that she can go off and be an animator and an artist and get a decent job, and if she can't, then she can go off. And during this time she meets Vincent, who she falls in love with, and it's like the super romantic princess and the prince in a Disney fairy tale kind of thing. But if she can't make it work, then she is forced by Eleanor, the sort of evil queen mum, to go back home and marry her childhood friend, because they have this company where they joint members of a company. That wasn't really explained much. But she's grown up with this guy called Jim, and he loves her, and it's unrequited because she doesn't love him as much as he loves her. But Eleanor is threatening that she has to go and marry Jim if she can't get a decent job, and she's trying, and Evie's trying to go from being a newspaper cartoonist to an animator. But Vincent has this friend who's messes things up and gets drunk, and because of this friend, Vincent gets really angry and punches someone, because there's someone from the same place that Evie works at, so she loses her job, and then Eleanor finds out that she's lost her job and she's threatening her to come home. So Evie is like sort of banned from seeing Vincent. I didn't understand this bit, because Vincent and Evie apparently they have to send a bird between them rather than just visiting each other, and this is before she's actually banished back to Eleanor's big home thing. I'm sorry, Carrie, if I'm making a mess of this review. I think you're lovely, and I think you've done. I'm very impressed that you can write a book, because it is really hard writing a book. I am more of a visually thinking person, so describing books is quite difficult, but I really am into it. So if any publishers want to send me any other books, that'd be awesome, because I really want to get more into BookTube. But anyway, so they this magical thing is that there's this bird called Little One, and Vincent has sent it over to fly to Evie's flat, and he's wrote on it. Now, up to this point, I accept it was all a bit of a fantasy with dreams in the afterlife, but then I got really confused, because before, up to that point, it had read like pretty standard romance of just Evie going to work, coming home, then hanging out with Vincent, and then it went weird, and he sends this bird over that he's written on, and then my brain started thinking, but how can you write on a bird? There's all these different feathers, and the ink wouldn't spread evenly over the feathers, and it was all in fancy script. How's he done a fancy script sentence on a bird? So I got over analysing the bird thing. So if you accept that it's surrealism, then you can get through the story. And then she writes another sentence on this bird and sends the bird back, and then they write to each other through the beard so many times that the beard turns into what people think is a black beard, but it's because of all the stories written on it. So it is, in the story, I don't think it's meant to be a metaphor, but looking on at the story, maybe it's some sort of metaphor. And then the other secret, and then there's a secret in between this one where she has artwork on the walls that she's done, and then when she's having to leave and go with this gym person, the artwork falls off the wall and turns into glass, and he picks up all these bits of glass and puts them in a box under the floorboards. I didn't really understand what happened there, and then further on in the story, the main conceit of the story is that Evie sort of passes on and gets to this afterlife, and she has to unburden herself of 3 secrets before she can actually enter her own personal heaven, which is her apartment number 72, where she was most happiest. That's when when she's unburdened the secret, she can open the door to her apartment. So, and the way she does this to tell the secret is to appear in her loved one's dreams. And I related to that concept because, I have dreamt of loved ones who've gone away, and it is like weird when you dream about it, but this is how she sends the message to them through their dreams. And then the first bit, when she finds out she's in this sort of purgatory, it reminds me a bit of Being Human and Annie, so that was interesting. But I thought some of it could have been explored more, and I think other authors maybe would have explored the darker bits of it, because they go to floor number 2 and it's people in lots of distress, and they seem to be feeling tortured, but Evie sees them with this leaf person who's like the housekeeper of the apartments, and he hears all their stories and stuff. She goes to see floor number 2 and she's shocked by it, but then they just carry on with the story and go to the basement. So I thought that was a bit skipped over. And then there's another in this apartment building in the afterlife. She sees some of her neighbours who lived at the apartment too, and there's one who she sees him in his pyjamas and he's in distress, and he says, too heavy, and he's just one of her neighbours, and he isn't really given much of a story really, and she doesn't really stop to help him or cheer him up or be there for him. She seems to dismiss him, and then we find out later on that either he fell from his apartment balcony or he jumped from his apartment balcony, but it's not really clear that, and I do think that character didn't really need to be in the story, because unless it was going to give some backstory to him, it didn't really explain that character. And the main family that Evie's from is Eleanor and her husband, and they have a joint business with Jim's family, and there's 2 houses, and that's where Evie comes from. But Eleanor is like this. It's been interesting to hear more about Eleanor's motivations and get into Eleanor's head about why she was doing it. But Eleanor seemed to be a character who had a very black-white perspective. You do this or you do this, and it's got to be her way or the highway kind of thing, and which it was okay for the story, but I do like to understand the motivations of different characters, so I think that could have been expanded on more. So yeah, the 3 secrets are all about symbols. So, and when she first meets Vincent, she likes orange. She gives him sweets because he likes to play the violin, but he plays with his eyes closed, so she gives him sweets, and then eventually she's going to give him a sweet, and there's a note for her. I thought that bit was sweet, and and I like that. And then they have he sets up a little date where in his busking spot, and they have burgers and cola and stuff, and I thought that was cute, but I thought, wouldn't all the passengers be staring at them? So she has this big romance with Vincent, but then her mother comes and destroys it all and stops her from seeing Vincent, and she goes off and ends up marrying this Jim guy, and that's when the surreal thing happens. We're meant to accept that she can open her heart, her rib cage, actually remove her own heart with her bare hands and bury it in the ground, and which ergo means you've got to accept that she's lived to in her 80s without a heart. So that's when you just chuck any logic out the door and just accept it's a surreal fantasy. And then she says, because her heart apparently is not her own, so she has to bury it in the ground because she doesn't want to give it to Jim, and Vincent can't have it, so she can't have it. I didn't really think that was very empowering. I thought, why would you bury your own heart? So, but she buries this heart, and then this tree appears, and it's like a magical tree of magical fruit that appears after a thunderstorm, and everybody finds it disgusting apart from Evie and possibly Vincent would. And then eventually Vincent finds Jim's house and finds the magical tree with Evie's heart, and then he dies, and the tree collapses, and the bird that they've been writing on collapses, and he dies. And eventually Evie, when she gets to open her apartment, she meets him there, and he's her personal heaven, which I thought, well, I sort of guessed that from 3 chapters in, so that's what her personal heaven isn't a big secret, because it's pretty obvious. So, and yeah, the other thing was about the glass pictures she had. So so she goes to see her son in his dream and tells him about the bird called Little One that's got all the stories on. So her son the bird visits her son, and somehow he and his wife, they managed to take the stories from the bird and put them into a notebook, and it sounded like they actually sort of peeled off the sentences and put it into the notebook. So that was interesting. I thought they were just going to wash the bird, but they changed, but it was taking the stories and preserving the stories and then letting the bird go free. So that was interesting. And then the next dream, she visits her daughter and she tells her about the artworks that she did and where to find her, and her daughter gets it, finds the box and these glass shards, and then she hangs them up like a mobile, and then all the pictures come to life. Now I wasn't unsure about that, whether that was like glass shards, just like a sort of like story trope where the hints of light move the pictures, or if they were actually moving pictures. So I was a little bit confused by that. And then the final dream she goes to is, whose is it? Is Jim's, I think. And it's about burying her heart and making a tree. Is it Jim's or is it Vincent's? Sorry, I forgot that bit. So eventually these secrets come out about the bird, the artwork and the heart making the tree, and that's when she can move on to the other side. So it's very surrealistic, and I was surprised that it wasn't just like an ordinary story. And I would love to read more of Carrie exploring the surrealism stuff, more than like the romance stuff. I think she could like do really well exploring how she works in surrealism into her stories, because I think if it was like focused on just being a surrealist novel, I think she'd do a good one, because her ideas are really interesting. So that is the story. So yeah, I would recommend it. And for any parents who've got any little ones who like Carrie, there is one instance of the F word in it, and there is there is like really tame intimations that there is sex in it, but other than that it's a pretty family friendly novel, although it might be quite dark for some youngsters, but it is very different and is a good book, and the cover's really pretty. And I tend to think of my other thing. So yeah, so as I did enjoy it, but I would say to Carrie that it'd be fun if you explored all your metaphors and symbols and surrealism, because I really like that, and like, because it's really nice to get surrealist elements in novels that are different than the usual sort of love story stuff. So I hope she goes down the route of looking at magic realism and surrealism rather than going down the route of love stories, because I think she's very good at writing these surrealist things. So thank you for writing this book, Carrie, and I did enjoy reading it. So I hope everybody I hope everybody enjoyed that BookTube review of Carrie Hope Fletcher's book On the Other Side. I will be doing more BookTube reviews because I bought a load of new books, because I wanted some new magic realism books and steampunk books, so there'll be lots more book reviews coming up. So yeah, so I hope you have enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. Yay!